It's been 10 years since Mad Max Fury Road came out and 10 years since the Mad Max game came out. And while this isn't going to be a typical review on that game, it's going to be a partial review on that game because it's been 10 years as a sort of retrospective. First off, shout out to Mad Max Bible and his just awesome channel on everything Mad Max. He pretty much covers anything you can think of within the Mad Max universe, as well as the incredibly insane story of the making of this game, which I will get into. So shout out to him. He's a source for this video, as well as just my general Googling of this whole thing. So first off, as a sort of kind of review for this, I'll start with the negative before I actually get into the positive. So to get the negative right off the bat, this game is incredibly grindy. This game is so grindy, so time consuming, and so repetitive that there was an online feature the devs put in so you could get more currency, which is scrap in this universe, while you were not playing the game. It's obviously defunct now, and on the Steam version, if you are playing this on PC, it does go on sale for like $3, $2.50 every so often, almost all the time. But word of warning, the Steam version still has that online achievement that you cannot get anymore, save for downloading a save file from Nexus Mods, while the GOG version, the good old games version, has removed that online trophy, so you can still platinum it or 100% it without having to worry about that online function. But yes, this game is so grindy, the devs put in an online feature so you can collect scrap while you weren't playing. That's how grindy this thing is. You have skill points known as Griffa tokens, where Mad Max goes through a hallucination and levels up, and one of the level up parameters that you can unlock is more loot. You literally get an ability to get more loot, as well as the online option to get more loot. It's absolutely ridiculous. And the whole reason that is ridiculous is because, like, one, yes, there is a lot of grind in this game. This is really a 10 to 15 hour game padded out to 30 or 40 hours. It did not need to be this long. Now, I understand some of you might disagree with me on that front. I personally think it's just way too long. It can even go on longer if you want to 100% the damn thing. It's also incredibly repetitive, like I said before. You have about 5 or 6 things to do, and this is very much your typical open world formula that we've seen 1,000 times. So if you are burned out on open world games, this isn't for you. You have your vantage points like Far Cry or Assassin's Creed, only they're air balloons in this. You have to raid scavenger locations to get loot, more loot. Again, the loot never stops. To just add a little check mark to your list of things you've done. There's fucking base building in a Mad Max game, the last thing I would expect in a Mad Max game. Doesn't make any sense, but they put that in there to pad the length out. The fighting here is Arkham combat fighting, and while it's really chunky and crunchy and feels really good, it is still, again, just your basic Arkham combat. You can sort of turn your brain off when you are fighting because it's that simple, but it's still fun combat, so that is a positive. Finally, I would argue that the voice actor for Max is probably one of the worst choices they could have gone with.
It won't be complete until we get the V8 from Gastown. I'm going to Gastown.
Sure you are.
I want to join the races.
No time, Jawbone. I need to join the races now.
I found trouble. But things were there, as you said. Why'd you tell me?
It's just where I'm from, you trust your gut ropes on people.
And where is that?
I came from the south, with the riders.
And it's actually baffling to me that they did go with this guy. Maybe it was a budgetary reason, I don't know. Like I said earlier in the beginning of this video, the development for this thing was actually kind of a mess. Max originally started out as an American, which just is not right. So a couple of days later, after they revealed that Max was American in like 2012 or 2013, a bunch of fans started a petition. A bunch of fans actually started a petition, which worked, and then they changed the voice actor to an Australian guy. However, I don't think his voice sounds right for Max. Obviously, you know, you have Tom Hardy as Max now, and you had Mel Gibson as Max. and there really is only one Max. Spoilers, it's Mel Gibson. It's not that the voice actor does a bad job here, it's just that his voice doesn't fit. I picture Max with a gruff, like gravelly kind of voice, a little bit of deep. The guy here just sounds kind of too weak, if that makes sense. It also doesn't help that he has the mumble mouth like Tom Hardy does. Can hardly understand what he's saying half the time. It's a good thing there's subtitles. My other big issue with this voice actor is that they literally could have cast Mel Gibson's brother. Mel Gibson's brother, Donald Gibson, is a longtime voice actor as opposed to film and television, and he actually auditioned to be in this game back in 2012 or 2013. If I do happen to find that clip, I'm obviously going to throw it in this video and you can hear it.
The gangs took over the highways. They took my friends, my wife, and my child. They took away the life I once had, and the man I once was. Now, out here in the wasteland, there is only the scum, the filth, the dregs of mankind. And I'm gonna kill a lot of them. There are no heroes anymore. There is only me.
But here's a sample of Donald's work. I know him personally from my favorite cartoon show Reboot as Ray Tracer. Yes, Ray Tracer.
Well, what do we have here?
Booby-trapped. Touch those tanks and...
A lovely damsel. Outnumbered, definitely in distress.
The arrangement was I wouldn't kill you. I reckon you got a bargain, didn't you?
It looks to me like you could use a lift.
As well as Captain Boomerang, the only Australian villain in all of the DC universe. He also sounds exactly like Mel Gibson vocally, which I think is why he got so much voice work. He's kind of like, as negative as this sounds, he's kind of like discount Mel Gibson, even though he is a great voice actor. So the fact that Donald Gibson actually auditioned to be in a Mad Max video game, basically taking his brother's place, and the developers said no, will never not piss me off, and it makes me think that Avalanche Studios, the developers of the Mad Max game, had some sort of resentment towards this IP or towards George Miller. Like I said, thanks to Mad Max Bible for his info video on this game, as well as Gamer's little documentary and my own research. Parts of the wasteland, even though it's literally just supposed to be the outbacks of Australia, circa 1995 or something, and during, like, you know, the collapse of civilization, according to, you know, Miller or the backstories or even some, you know, fan theories, there was a post-apocalyptic breakdown, which is where the whole Fallout thing comes from. I still don't know if I buy that little bit of canon that there was a nuclear, you know, apocalypse because Max is still alive during it, and if you actually follow the timeline, it happened during, like, the events of Mad Max 2 or before the events of Mad Max 2, but still after the events of Mad Max 1, so somehow him and a bunch of other people managed to survive a post-apocalyptic nuclear fallout with all the radiation and everything. Just kind of doesn't make sense to me. There's parts of the wasteland here that look like the back hills of Las Vegas or the mountains of Arizona. It's very strange. It's almost Americanized, and I'm beginning to think that because perhaps for so long in development Max was going to be an American, that they changed the wasteland of Australia to literally California, Las Vegas, and Arizona. But of course they had to backpedal once everyone found out that Max was American, and it pissed everyone off. And they also had to cast some more Australian actors. But if you notice, every other actor almost is an American or doing a freaking American accent. You have Yuri Lowenthal here not even trying, and you have Joshua Saxon, aka Revolver Ocelot, also not even trying to do an Australian accent. I get it, they're American voice actors, or Canadian or something. They might not be able to pull it off, but hey, giving it a good college try is better than nothing.
Anyone who ain't Scrotus. I need you to open a passage into the Dead Barons for me to send caravans over. You get me one of the big fuel trucks out there and we'll pack it with explosives. And it should make a big hole in that wall.
No more sticky tricks, Stink. Today, we finish it.
Called my bluff, Wheels! It finishes today. The total erratification of all. You, everything here.
Master order this? Scrotus word? Or you playing solo?
Our carburetor says you mean to bust through the jaw.
I'm going to Gastown.
Sure you are. Now me, I know a lot about Gastown and the jaw. I trade goods in and out of there all the time.
Moondrifter, I've something to tell you. Me and my child, on our way to our new master. Our rig was ambushed by buzzards. But we fled.
What do you want?
There's hidden things in the rig. A treasure for someone like you.
Why tell me this? I'll do nothing for you.
I have a feeling you may yet. The rig still sits in the tunnels. Go there and see.
I also believe they had super resentment towards George Miller because, one, nearly all of the plot details within this game are taken from the scripts of Fury Road drafts, Furiosa drafts, which came out this year, as well as the upcoming Wastelander film that George Miller is currently working on. So it's a sort of Frankenstein of stories that he's already written, as well as spoiling future Mad Max projects. You want to know who the girl and the woman were within Fury Road during his crazy mental flashbacks? Some say they're his wife and daughter, but they're actually the two characters that you meet within this Mad Max game. Max meeting Chumbucket is no coincidence either, because he shows up in the last half of Furiosa. The Magnum Opus that we have to build within this Mad Max game is literally just the rebuilt black on black that you see within Fury Road, decked out in silver with the Super V8 engine and the spikes and everything on the sides. Scabrous Scrotus from Furiosa, but not in Fury Road, also shows up in this. He's the main antagonist. And of course we know what happens to him, which answers why he isn't in Fury Road, which is, again, a scrapped plot, or a plot for the third Mad Max Tom Hardy film, The Wastelander, that George is currently working on. So in George's own words, this game isn't canon. There is a Twitter post from one of the actors from Furiosa reading the script saying it canonizes the video game, but if George said it's not canon, to me, it's not canon. I understand a lot of you can disagree with me on that fact, but that's perfectly fine. To me, it's not canon because George says so. It's also not canon because it's just a pure spoiler bait for literally any future Mad Max project or past Mad Max project. There's discarded ideas from Fury Road's 20-year-long production cycle within this game that still somehow made it into Fury Road and Furiosa. It just kind of puts a sour taste in my mouth when I do play this, or at least think of the story. And while the story isn't bad, after all, it is a bunch of George Miller scrapped ideas, or at least planned projects, notes, and scripts. It just feels weird that the studio kind of, rather than creating an original story, they used ideas that Miller had already written down, and again, effectively spoiling any other Mad Max project Miller does have in mind or is working on. I would have liked to see if the narrative had done something completely and totally different. Maybe borrow elements from Road Warrior, the first Mad Max, and Thunderdome. I would have liked to see all of that stuff resurface. And again, if in the hindsight of these developers had cast Mel Gibson's frickin' brother, then using a Mad Max 1, Road Warrior, and Thunderdome style elemental plot, borrowing heavy elements from those stories to create sort of a Frankenstein of that universe, it would have fit perfectly. Now, it's not to say the game is terrible. My name, Calypso, comes from Twisted Metal, which is known for its car combat. That was one of my first PlayStation games besides Soul Reaver, which I've just done a review on here. But the car combat for Twisted Metal instantly hooked me on cars. Even though I am a blind man and I will never be able to drive, Mad Max and Twisted Metal cemented my love for insane sports cars and huge engines. So to see the car combat be so well done here in a developer who's known for their just insane games like the Just Cause series, it just fits so well. The car customization is also awesome. I think if there ever is a Mad Max 2 game, they need to go 10 times more on the car customization, only with less grindy scrap bullshit. Like I said, this game is a 10 to 15 hour long game, and rather than unlocking every single car upgrade for a story mission, showing progress within that front, they force you to go around this huge, bloated, repetitive open world and grind it out that way. There are definite ways to make this game shorter, have it make more sense narratively, and have the customization work within the narrative, which, to be fair, you do get narrative story-driven upgrades for the car for story missions, but instead of getting, the top upgrade, you get like the second upgrade. You need to keep upgrading it to make it better and better and better, which shouldn't have been the case. But besides that, the combat is amazing. The fist combat, though generic, is good and crunchy. And while I don't like Max's voice actor, he at least delivers in an okay way, even though if you can't understand what he's saying some of the times. I do love, though, how they touch upon Mad Max, the Mad in that title. When you do upgrade, you have to do it with Griffa tokens, and when you interact with Griffa, it's like Max is starting to hear a hallucination. He hears the cries of his dead family and everyone he kills before he talks to this mysterious man, talking about the inner workings of his soul and who he really is and what he's lost in his past life and where he is now. It actually gets pretty philosophical for a game where you drive around and blow up cars, which is a really nice touch. You then upgrade yourself and wake up from almost like we're literally in a hallucination. So I do love the implication that Griffa, this wandering soul merchant, essentially is or isn't real.
There you are. Shifter of sands, letter of blood, remnants of a ruined past. You say you seek the plains of silence, but do you not wander them right now? The remains of your life, a perpetual flight, an escape from all that is human, until one day, the plains of silence end, and you begin. You've a purpose in this life, my friend, although you fear to dream it. But pain will come, much more pain, before this purpose to you is made manifest. You know nothing of me. Look behind you, at dune after dune of drifting, half-forgotten terrors. You flee them always. These past phantoms, and the madness that crawls inside. You've come to Griffa for a reason. Deep inside, twisted around horrors from which you run, lies your strength. Griffa can help. Help you venture down to where you daren't go yourself, and lay bare your true promise.
And there are parts where, even though when I am playing this game and it does look like the back deserts of California or Las Vegas sometimes, those moments where it's like, yeah, this is totally Australia really hit ya. I've also taken a billion screenshots within this game in this replay. I haven't played this since it came out, so it was a good refresher. And visually, this game is stunning. It's not that Avalanche did a bad job, this game is gorgeous, it's that they could have done much better. And while it does bug me that they used basically everything from production of Fury Road since it started in 2008 or something to the game and for the game, at least that shows they did put in effort to make it feel authentically Mad Max. You feel like Batman, Jesus. Also, shout out to Brendan McCarthy. If that name sounds familiar, he is the production designer pretty much and the concept artist for anything Mad Max for the last 20 years or so since Fury Road onward. Fury Road began production in like 2007 or something, maybe even earlier, but Brendan McCarthy is also one of the lead artists of Judge Dredd, as well as my favorite show, Reboot. So seeing all the cars from Fury Road, seeing scrapped car designs, and seeing even the bodies of cars from other films, like Steve McQueen's Bullet, on your Magnum Opus car is awesome. The devs definitely showed their own love of cars with this game. There's even racing here, and while it's not the best racing on the planet, at least it still feels Mad Max. I definitely have a wish list for what a Mad Max 2 game would be. I think I've highlighted some of those points throughout this video, but if there was a Mad Max 2, go with Donald Gibson as the voice actor this time, create an original story, lessen the grindy bullshit, and actually make it story progressive only instead of open world stuff. Keep the open world, but make it more varied. Keep the open world, but make it more varied. And by varied, I mean in side quests, missions, stuff like that, rather than doing the exact same thing 200 times over. Also, cut out the base building. If you do want base building, or at least something of that equivalent, have it again be part of the story progression, and not just a wasteland side mission or something. Maybe I'll save the history, the actual development history of this game, saved for another video, but then again, it also has been covered 10 times over already. So that's sort of me falling into my very own cliche of this grindy, repetitive thing that's been covered 1,000 times only on my channel instead of someone else's. And now that I think about it, it's not that people don't know all the cons or negativities of this game. I think every review that I've watched since this game came out, as well as preparing to make this video, they've all said pretty much the same thing. It's a bit too grindy, it does this wrong, it does that wrong. There's something about it that pulls you sort of in. I kind of equate this to Assassin's Creed or The Witcher 3. The thing about Assassin's Creed exploring historical locations during that time period almost one-to-one, Notre Dame just got rebuilt, and they wouldn't have been able to do that had it not been for Assassin's Creed Unity having one-to-one scanned the entire church. But there's something about the Assassin's Creed series that pulls you in, even though it is repetitive as hell and it has the same thing over and over and over again. Likewise, The Witcher 3, fantastic game, is the exact same Ubisoft Far Cry open world formula that we've seen 1,000 times over. Instead of climbing towers or air balloons in this case, you have to go to notice boards to get quests, and those unlock little question marks for you to explore. Also, if you zoom out on the map, it's just absolutely massive, and there's so many things to do, it's ridiculous. It's a bloated, repetitive game, but there's something about the world of The Witcher that sucks you in and keeps you playing. Though in my case, I can't play for 5 hours, I can only play for like 2. And the same case goes for here. Although Mad Max is a repetitive, almost boring, mind-numbing, turn off your brain experience at points, there's something about this Australian backwoods that sucks me in and keeps me going. It also helps that there's 4 or 5 good movies now that just have always been great from start to finish. Now, you might think Thunderdome is bad, but that's where your opinion is wrong. Even though Thunderdome is flawed, it's still an excellent film. Much like this game, even though Mad Max is a flawed magnum opus, if you will, it's still a solid game, and for $2 to $3 on sale, you really can't beat that. It's almost like picking up some scrap and building something with it. Now, I could blab on longer and longer about all the things I dislike and all the things I do like in this game, but I think I've covered it enough. So with all that said, I've been Calypso, and I'll see you in the next one.